Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. I am absolutely delighted today to be joined by Mack Gill and David Pearson from Torstone Technology. Guys, how are you?
Very
Great.
good.
Yeah.
Listen, it's lovely to have you both on the show. David, brand new to the business. Give us a little bit of background, if you would.
Yes. I joined in a pandemic, so I've just joined Torstone at the start of June. Before that, I spent a year at Genesis Global, but prior to that, I spent 25 years at Fidessa. So I've always been on kind of both buy side and sell side of capital markets, based out of London, but flying east and west as needs must, really.
Absolutely, and enjoying yourself so far here. So I won't speak for you on that, but that's the off-camera discussion. And Mack, if you could introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background to Torstone as well, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, great, and great to be here, and it's also great to have David on board. I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about all the exciting things we're doing with him. The bets are off whether or not we actually let him into the office one of these days. We'll see we'll see how that goes.
Overrated, as you said earlier, right?
Exactly. But yeah, so look, I mean, just a little bit of background and context. I'm the COO of Torstone Technology. I've been with the company almost 3 years, which is amazing. Time flies when you're having fun. Before that, actually, I started my career with almost 20 years at SunGard, which is now FIS, and then I spent 4 years running Millennium IT, which is the LSE's technology business. And in that period, I spent a lot of time working not just with exchanges, but also with CSDs and clearing houses, and bringing new real-time technology into the post-trade angle, and which was a very exciting business and a very exciting place with great technology, and but I had a real window into that post-trade world, which I'd also seen obviously during my SunGard days, but getting a view with the Millennium technology of the benefit of new real-time platforms, and seeing just what a sea change that's bringing to that part of the industry of middle and back office, which as we all know hasn't exactly had a lot of technology TLC for the past 20, 30, 40 years. It's a world of legacy, and there's with a lot of pent up demand for change. And so I came across Torstone and was really excited about the opportunity to join the Torstone team to really be focused on bringing modern technology into post-trade, because again, Torstone, for those of you that aren't familiar with us, really is in a very unique position in the global market, being really one of the few SaaS-based cloud platforms for for real-time middle and back office. So we have a cross-asset platform that again provides all of middle and back office functionality delivered on Amazon. We actually came out of a bank, an investment bank. We spun out of KBC Financial Products, which started developing our platform for their own global requirements. They were very active in a wide range of asset classes globally, based out of London, and had just gone live with the first elements of this new platform when 2008 hit, and they were one of the victims of that crisis. But through that process, the team that built the platform was able to actually spin out of the investment bank with the team and the IP, and took a couple of years for that to happen. But in 2012, that was the creation of Torstone as an independent company. And with some work and some refactoring, subsequently the platform was deployed on AWS actually about 5 years ago now. So we really were early adopters of cloud, especially in the capital markets context, and especially in the post-trade context. And so since then, we've been growing very rapidly, based out of London, about 100 employees, about 25 clients, and growing rapidly in Asia and Europe, where we have our initial focus, and also more recently in North America. So very exciting times to be offering cloud deployed SaaS systems into a legacy market that really is is clamoring for for new options. So that's a little bit of context on kind of where we're coming from.
I appreciate that, and I think there's a really interesting part you mentioned there about the legacy and the clamour for new. And a theme of all these interviews we've done through this period has been the sort of opportunity that comes out of this. There's an acceleration of trends, and a big part of those trends have been in I guess two of your principal areas, the cloud and SaaS world, and then this post-trade explosion that we're seeing at the moment. Tell us a little bit about the acceleration and what you guys are seeing with regards to the adoption of SaaS and cloud technology at the moment.
Well, it's interesting being what 4 or 5 months into the pandemic now, and there's been such an acceleration and realization across the whole range of our professional experiences about the importance of cloud. I mean, specifically for us, just as a company and how we work. I mean, for us, this was all very seamless because we already were working remotely. We are, everything's cloud-based. Having our developers work on AWS workspaces, whether or not they're in the office or remotely or at home, was seamless. It was really, we didn't even blink, and we've just been cracking on. So in terms of how we operate as a company, that was hugely beneficial to us. More interestingly, or more important for our clients, I think the benefits of having a cloud platform, especially in the early period of the pandemic with all the market volatility and then the very high volumes that we saw back in March, 2020, that we have the ability, like any SaaS platform, to literally turn the dial on capacity. And so there were a number of industry platforms, especially in the ETD space, that did unfortunately fall over in that period and had real problems in keeping up with the volume. So a lot of banks and brokers did have operational issues. For SaaS platforms like ours, again, it was just a question of turning up the capacity dial on our platform. And I think that was another data point for the market, for people to just see the benefits of having that capacity on demand and being able to deal with have flexibility to deal with these situations. And so there's been a bit of a reticence. Again, 5 years ago when we started to deploy on AWS, we were on the bleeding edge, right? And having to evangelize and educate people. We found take up to be quickest in the tier 2, tier 3 bank and broker space, where perhaps people were a bit more flexible and it was easier to move. But in the tier 1s, though, were the most reticent. That's changed entirely over the past year or two. In fact, we announced last year that we signed up Credit Suisse and are working on taking them live in Canada and some of their North American business. But that's an example of a larger bank that has embraced cloud. But just recently, in the last couple of weeks, I mean, you've seen deals by HSBC has announced a global deal with AWS. You've seen Google sign some deals with Deutsche Bank and Goldman Sachs. I mean, the tier 1s are also now really embracing it. So I think the 2020s are going to be the year or the decade of the cloud, and I think by the end of it, it'll be interesting to see what's not cloud deployed. So I mean, I'm very excited about the next 5 to 10 years, because again, the last 30, 40 years in a post-trade perspective has seen such little change. Systems have been static, and we're going to see so much fundamental change of the infrastructure, of the plumbing, if you will, of capital markets. And certainly, we want to be a real factor in that and a real driver from a post-trade perspective.
I think it's very interesting there that you talk about the sort of tier 1 adoption, and I've said this in a few episodes now when it comes to cloud-based technology I think the investment world's been playing catch up a little bit from the adoption everywhere else of cloud. It was probably the early 2000s that I first thought we'd see, or mid 2000s that I first thought we'd see real adoption, but it took a little bit of time 5 years or so for that to come through. 2010 to 2020 saw it become very mainstream across the rest of the technology, and the banking world, seemed to flag behind. The investment banking world seemed to flag behind with its sort of latency battles at that sort of stage being the key thing. What's been the sort of fuel that this has been an accelerator without question, and all the benefits of cloud-based technology absolutely coming to the fore in the last few months. But this isn't just a few-month trend, is it? It's been being adopted over the last 18 months, particularly aggressively. I think. What's been the catalyst behind that?
Well, I think, again, just greater education, greater realization. I think from the need to change. I think also, one key thing has been much more comfort on security. Clearly, deploying data and deploying key infrastructure onto the cloud, I think, was something that initially, especially larger institutions, were reticent about. But again, greater comfort from the regulators as well on security, I think, has been a key factor. You look, I think, a major data point a couple of years back in the U.S. was when FINRA themselves started using AWS for part of their data management. That was a huge data point for the industry. And more recently, last year and into this year, the Bank of England over here has actually become a very strong advocate of cloud. And so I think when you have the regulators with that level of support, I think then people are saying, okay, we can move forward and we can explore this. So I think, again, the acceleration is only going to continue. You look at the level of we talk a lot about it as industry now, but in fact the actual usage of cloud, especially in capital markets, is very, very low, extremely low. So again, it's that next 5+ years where I think there's going to be massive change. And you get people. I saw a report by McKinsey recently. And so they're saying by the end of the 2020s, anywhere from 50 to 90% of all banking activity, in their views, corporate, kind of wholesale and retail, is going to be, on cloud infrastructure. So to get from, where we are today to that level of, that's a massive change. So it's going to be really exciting.
Absolutely.
As we go forward.
And David, that sort of finds you. Sorry to kind of. It's. I'm really interested to bring you into this as well, because you join a business going through this sort of opportunity and this sort of rapid change in a product-based role. Tell us what that means for you.
So I think there's some of the way that people have approached technology and the business drivers have evolved over the last few years, which is kind of, I think, is starting to drive that acceleration, because the phrase it does what it says on the tin is now almost exactly not what you want, because to buy some technology, you put it on a box and it does what you bought it for, and doesn't meet the demands of flexibility, agility, elasticity. And I think businesses, driven as much by the investment community itself, the asset managers, investment managers, they've got business ideas, they've got different types of product that they're wanting to use as investments, and that's coming through to the brokers who 10, 20 years ago would say, I'm an equity broker, I trade equity or fixed income. Now the opportunity is to be much more flexible, seeking the ability to execute business for their clients across different product sets. And in that respect, people demand different things out of the technology and the way it's being deployed. So that is all promoting, I think, this push to getting access to technology, getting access to functionality and products in a way that can flex and move with the nature of the business, and as well as the way in which the regulatory backdrop is changing so much as well. So it's there's a agile kind of scrum type thing which is to fail fast. It's a business model, fail fast. If you're going to try something, get to the point of decision making as quickly as you can. And I think that's so difficult to do when you've got huge upfront costs of technology, networks, and then you realize that you've built the wrong thing. So how do I get to that point quickly? And I think all of the things that that we've been talking about here, providing flexibility, it all focuses in on how do you deploy, get access to technology, how do I get to the point of decision making, and if that's a success, then that needs to evolve. It still needs to move and kind of offer that flexibility going forward. And I definitely think that's something that, we're in a great position to be able to service.
And that sort of represents the sea change. I think we've seen that both of you come from very traditional large vendor enterprise backgrounds, right? And the traditional issues around that have been the sort of great expense to change anything out. Once you're in, you're in, and it's very difficult to remove it and switch up the technology. What I think we're seeing is a much more collaborative world where people are looking for options that they can really work with and develop, and those and actually sort of pair products together to suit the rather than an all-seeing eye. It's systems that can come in there and provide really bespoke and tailored solutions to it. Are you guys seeing that being far more of the conversation you're having at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ability to kind of the ability to configure and build something that offers a client, with some precision, the product, the functionality that they need from that particular service, but also that it moves forward. And so they can change that on an ongoing basis. So you don't want to buy something where someone installs it and then walks out the door and you don't see them again. It's about remaining close to the client, providing that ongoing service, and work with and change with the client as their business model changes. Then you need to be able to provide that capability.
Let's moved into that post-trade world, Mack, if we can. And I know that there's a lot of technological innovation going on within the space at the moment. It's probably been one of the most talked about areas in capital markets is what's happening with post-trade and new business models emerging, et cetera, et cetera. Give us your view of the post-trade, an overview of the post-trade world, if you would.
Yeah, well, first, just to follow on from what David was saying, I think a key thing and a key attribute to post-trade is that it's been ossified. You have systems that have been deployed 20, 30, 40 plus years ago and very difficult to change, very expensive to change. And so they just haven't changed much, even though, as David said, the business, the front office, continually evolves and products change and markets evolve, but it's very difficult to bring along the post-trade infrastructure. So the key element and kind of the simplest element of what a SaaS platform can bring is just the ability to change. And very, very simply, the biggest, working with Torstone versus other companies I've been with in the past is just the simple fact that we upgrade all of our clients every month continually. Everybody's in the same code base and they're configured to look and feel and do what each one wants, but they're the same code base underlying, and they all get upgraded on the same version every month. And so if you're in a bank or a broker running on our platform and some products change or you have a regulatory change, traditionally you've had to wait for an upgrade cycle to change your deployed version, which has been very customized, and it's going to be very expensive, and both in terms of the vendor effort and your own effort to go through that. And maybe you do that every 2 or 3 years, maybe you do that every 5 years. It's difficult, it's expensive. In this new model, there's continual change, and with again that monthly cycle, and even if you need to do things even faster, that can be done. So that getting that new flexibility, I think, is very, very important. That's one angle. The other angle that I think is really key about a new view of post-trade as a business is really this idea of real-time intraday information. Because again, the older infrastructure, much of it, given the volumes and given the actual technical limitations, was doing processing on a batch basis. So you'd have daily cycles and you'd be crunching numbers and crunching reports overnight and hoping to get the reports to the front office and to the regulators by a certain time the next morning. And if there was any technical issues, it would have huge knock-on effects, et cetera, et cetera. In this new environment and the kind of environment that we provide, we're doing real-time processing. And just like we're seeing, again, market infrastructure change to that in the CCP space, especially, you need to have, or it's a huge benefit to have a real-time view of your margin, of your collateral, and basically of your positions. And so from post-trade's perspective, having that type of real-time platform really is a sea change. And so one thing that we like to think of is that by having, again, a real-time post-trade environment, is you have really you have a data management platform. People don't think of post-trade as data management. They think you got to build a data lake and bring in a whole other CRM system and spend millions on your data environment. Within a real-time post-trade platform, you have your golden source. I mean, this is your books and records, right? So if you can access your golden source to real-time data, then there's a whole range of things you can do with it. I know that, and David is also, I think, been very excited about this and coming in. We're really been looking to do a lot with, his perspective on the market to really extend out our data management capabilities from a not just a back office, but from a middle office perspective as well. So a lot of changes coming, I think, that are going to be, again, facilitated not just by the change I talked about in terms of being on a SaaS platform, but more day to day, having real time data and the capabilities to provide that into the front office environment. I think that's it's a massive opportunity for a lot of institutions.
Absolutely, and I think speaking of opportunities, David, you've been brought in specifically to put fresh eyes and new initiatives into the business. I know the middle office is a focus of some of the work that you're doing there as well. Tell us a little bit about your role and the opportunities that you foresee in doing what you're doing.
Yeah, and so yes, having worked in the post-trade in the middle office environment for a few years, and also I'm co-chair of the FIX post-trade working group. So kind of keeping an eye on industry opportunity, on industry interest and where that's going. At the same time, where Torstone, one of Torstone's huge strengths, of course, is it's genuinely multi-asset across the full range of investment classes. So we're able to handle products across the spectrum, and then pulling that together in a middle office environment allows businesses to bring different trading environments, different execution platforms that they're using, bring that data down into the middle office and start that process of the post-trade journey, starting with that original trade that you've got all the way through. And Mack mentioned a moment ago that the actual underlying data that we have then offers just huge opportunity, because by its very nature we have not only things like the books and records and understanding of the risk, but also the actual trading, the fees and commissions are being paid. We understand the underlying client data and how that is managed by and put together by the actual business itself. So we have the opportunity to bring that data and use it statistically, analytically, to provide some really interesting insights into the business that those firms are doing. And it starts in the middle office. I think the earlier you grab hold of that trading that you're doing for your clients across the different trading environments in the front office, the earlier you bring that together, the better the opportunity, I think, of consolidating and driving the data and the opportunity that gives you, the analysis that you can provide. So that can improve client service. It can provide and improve your own view of your own services and capabilities that you believe. And sometimes I think it gives you insights into what you're doing that you simply couldn't get before. So where your underlying costs are for carrying positions, whether that's a cost for actually doing particular business in particular markets. There's an enormous amount of information and data. So I've been in Torstone 2 months, but starting to take a look at some of the angles on that data to start to present to clients, to open their eyes as to what we could achieve with the data we have, with the real-time information that we have, to help businesses evolve. And it comes around to that same equation, I think, which is brokers, if they're going to be successful, need to be closely tuned to what their clients are trying to do, the way that their clients are looking to drive better investment decision making and better, they're looking for alpha. So the ability for the broker to respond to the client's demands and ideas with interesting insights is all going to be based around, have I got the information together? Can I provide, better insight back to my client? Because that's going to help me grow my business.
I think that sort of there sits the sort of core theme of any successful vendor at the moment, isn't it? About this, that sort of listening to the customer and providing genuine acceleration and ease of their of their services. And I think that's been a feature from certainly what I've seen and read about Torstone over recent years. Yep. That ability to actually solve real-time problems for customers.
Yeah, we've been, the whole, I think as an industry, we all know the term, front to back processing is something we're all used to, obviously. But in terms of just conceptually thinking about what David has just outlined, we're really thinking about it in very simple terms, back to front, right? Yeah. It's back to front value, leveraging what you have, the infrastructure you have to support data and to support, again, all of that business intelligence for business value back to the front office. And so it's interesting. I think we'll be hearing a lot more about, back to front in the market. Certainly we're going to be pushing that concept very heavily in the months and the years ahead.
Well, we heard it here first. I want to touch on actually this period as well, because it's been challenging in so many different ways. But and as we've said, there's been opportunities that come out of it. Mack, from your perspective, there are businesses there that have that sort of battened down the hatches and waited for a pass, and there's businesses that have seen the opportunity to add to their ranks. And look, you brought in David, a high profile face in the industry during a time where a lot of people have sort of played a much more cautious hand during that sort of. Talk to me about how you've dealt with it. Look, you said for a company like Torstone, which is very, this continuity between most of the companies I've been speaking with over this period this isn't a seismic change. Most people have had the opportunity to work from home and work remotely for some time, and technology's allowed that. It's almost exactly the right time for something like this to happen to industry, and certainly the FS and technology industries around it. What's been the strategy behind growth and playing that sort of card as a business for Torstone?
Yeah, well, we decided even before the pandemic hit that this was going to be a heavy investment year for us, just given all the opportunities we have and the continued growth. And that's continued and despite the pandemic. And we've been very, very fortunate to be able to continue to hire and invest. We've actually done a lot of hiring in the past 3 or 4 months in Asia, in London, and in North America. And I tell you, it's actually been a fantastic time for those companies like us that have been able to continue hiring, because there's a lot of fantastic talent out there. And I think what's, I really see a kind of a Darwinian cycle right now. There've been a lot of companies, especially on the smaller end, a lot of fintechs that just simply weren't prepared and haven't been able to make it through, or are going to be a little precarious through the rest of this year. And it's a shame, because there's some great new technology out there, but not everybody has the business model. And so I think there's going to be a real shakeout on there already is a real shakeout on the fintech side. Again, we've been very fortunate to have the size and the scale and the momentum and the balance sheet and everything else to actually be very opportunistic and to continue to grow. And again, given all the industry dynamics we've just been talking about for the past while, again, we think we're very well positioned to continue to bring that value proposition to the market. So we're feeling very, very good about continued growth. And again, we've been fortunate, just given all the things we talked about earlier about not being slowed down at all by this. And there was a few months certainly at the beginning where new prospects that we were talking to just weren't ready to ink deals because they were slowed down. And so certainly there's been some new business development shifted maybe by a quarter on some fronts, but that I think that's not unexpected. But generally we're feeling very well positioned, and the growth is great. Personally, I feel very bad for a lot of people I know in other companies, either the smaller ones that aren't going to make it for whatever reason, or the larger companies that have had to retrench, and the more legacy companies that just haven't been able to be nimble through this. It's a tough time for a lot of people. We all know in the industry, we all know people going through that, and it's tough to be part of that community. But again, we feel fortunate, and it's great to be able to bring on new fantastic talent like David and others, and we're just going to keep cracking on.
I haven't paid Mack any money to say that, by the way.
It's
not yet, David. Oh, yeah. You haven't paid me yet.
You'll be paying for it soon.
There's a gun pointed at you off camera. I know how this works. David, speaking of that, you've come into this in the most extraordinary of circumstances. I know that you've got history with Mack and such like, but it's potentially slightly easier. But tell us a little bit about the experience of joining a company without physically being in the office. How's that been?
It's I mean, it's been strange, but at the same time, you realise that the power of the technology is fantastic. So actually, the day I started, the 1st of June, I put in contact with one of the IT staff, and I was up and running with a desktop space in the cloud by about 10:15 in the morning. So got all the security, got the extra security on my phone so I can access, the messaging system and email. All of that got sorted in just over an hour. And so I was up and running, and so in that respect, it was really quite straightforward. But the actual process, I'd spoken to Mack a couple of times, but actually I went through the process of being interviewed and then actually, negotiating and resigning, all electronically from this actual room in my house. And actually, the only thing I did the day before I joined Torstone was actually I moved my desk 180 degrees. So when I actually started on the Monday, a couple of people in the office said, "Oh, you've moved rooms, Dave." And I said, I've just got the window behind me now.
Something's got to signify the change, right?
Yeah, that's it. So it felt like a fresh start. But no, I think like many people, we just have to deal with the reality of it right now. And I think a lot of people are looking forward probably to getting back to the office, because everyone enjoys that human interaction, and actually in the wider context, I think a lot of people have actually enjoyed being able to go and sit in a beer garden and have a drink with their friends and family, because we do miss that personal interaction, even if it's at a safe 2 meters distance. And I think it's the same with the kind of office space. But I also think that the world has changed forever, in that I think there'll be a lot more people working from home because they can. I dread to think how many hours I've spent in a railway carriage commuting over the last 30 years. And in the end, it's very difficult to say, have I got good value out of that time? I'm not sure I have, especially when especially when there isn't a train to get on at Waterloo. Yeah. So it's people, common phrase really. People say it's the new reality. This is the way it's going to work. So one day I'll get to meet some of my colleagues and meet Mack again, and I look forward to that. But in the meantime, I'll be doing what I need to do and can do quite ably here with technology like we're using right now, to talk to people and talk about business, but also to interact socially, which I think is absolutely vital.
And Matt, we speak at the moment mid-July. This will come out probably towards the second half of August. Tell us a little bit about your plans with that. You've got a business that spans New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, London. What are you seeing? Different sort of reoccupations of offices across the globe? Are you planning for forever remote, or a blended model? What's the future hold for Torstone and how you do your work?
Well, it's been interesting having a global business, because we've seen literally followed the wave, right? So Asia first, and first in, first out. And Europe, and then North America, and then just more recently, here we are mid July, and Hong Kong, who we were all very envious of because they were in the office and going out drinks and everything. And but they've starting to do incremental lockdowns again just in the last couple of days, and we'll see where that goes. The same with with Tokyo, our office there, and Singapore. So who knows? I mean, I'm sure, and we've all we're all living this together, this great social experiment. It's just about flexibility. So we're just cracking on. As I say, it doesn't really impact us. We're going to get back and use our offices as and when we can. We're just very fortunate to be in an industry and to have the kind of company within the industry that can be very flexible, and we just go. I mean, I think we are missing the FaceTime with clients. I think that's really that's really important, and not just the VCs, but the actual more unstructured time, if you will. So I think as soon as there's a bit more flexibility, we're going to be definitely back in talking to our clients, talking to people in the market as much as we can, face to face, just as we can, like everybody else. But again, feeling very fortunate with the situation that we have.
Well, that situation's been born over a lot of hard work, I know, and adding real value to your customer base. It's I think there's no surprise when some companies have been able to sort of carry on BAU, because it's as close to BAU as possible because of the structure and the value it's providing, not just to this solution but to customers and how embedded they get into those particular customers as well. So exciting times for Torstone. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you both, and glad it's going so well, David and Mack. It sounds like the business is set to go from strength to strength. There's going to be so much more that I'd love to talk to you guys about as well. So maybe we hook back up in a couple of months and do a follow-up to this episode and see exactly how everyone's going. But thanks so much, guys. There'll be people here who are encountering a number of the problems you've been talking about solving. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I think just the simplest way is just go on our website, and we have all of our contact information there, or hook us up, David, or over LinkedIn or what have you. But always happy to talk to people in the market, and look forward to it. But thanks, Toby, for the time. It's been great today, and look forward to talking again soon in the future.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks very much, Toby.
My utter pleasure. David Pearson, Mack Gill, absolute pleasure talking to you both. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you all for watching FinTech Focus TV. We'll see you in another episode very, very soon.